The stars looked cold through the window of the diplomatic ship. Park Jin-woo stood alone in his quarters, reading the files on his screen one more time. The words painted a dark picture. The Kelthari Dominion had conquered 47 species in the last 300 years. They believed in only one thing: power. The strong ruled. The weak served or died. There was no middle ground in their world. Jin-woo closed the file and looked at his reflection in the dark glass. He was not a large man. His hair was starting to turn gray at the edges. His face carried lines from years of difficult choices. To anyone watching, he looked like exactly what he was supposed to be: a tired diplomat hoping to avoid war. But his eyes told a different story to those who knew how to look. A soft knock came at his door. Captain Yuna entered without waiting for permission. She was young for a starship commander, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Right now, her face showed only worry. "We enter Kelthari space in 2 hours," she said. "Are you sure about this?" Jin-woo turned from the window. "You have read the mission briefing, Captain." "I have read it 3 times. Yuna crossed her arms. "3 diplomatic missions have failed before us. The first envoy from the Pelian Republic was executed for showing fear. The second, from the Merchant Consortium, was beaten and sent back in pieces. The third simply disappeared." She paused. "And the Human Council sends 1 man with a small escort ship. Forgive me, but this feels like we are being sacrificed." Jin-woo smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. "The Council did not send me, Captain. I asked to come." This clearly surprised her. "You volunteered? Why would anyone volunteer for this?" "Because someone needed to show them what peace really means." He picked up his diplomatic credentials from the desk. "The Kelthari have never met humans before. They have only heard stories. They think we are soft because we prefer talking to fighting. They need to learn the truth." "And what is the truth?" Jin-woo did not answer. He simply looked at her with those tired, knowing eyes until she felt something cold move down her spine. She had served under many commanders in her career. She had never felt quite this way before. It was like standing next to a sleeping volcano. "Prepare the ship for arrival," he said quietly, "and tell the crew to stay calm, no matter what happens." "That is an order." 2 hours later, the ship called Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel above a world of gray and red. This was the Throne of Ash, capital of the Kelthari Dominion. The planet had been burned in ancient wars and rebuilt as a monument to conquest. Great towers of black metal reached toward the sky. Warships filled the space around it like angry insects. Lieutenant Taiho, Jin-woo's aide and translator, stood beside him as they watched the planet grow larger in the view screen. Taiho was young and eager, fresh from the diplomatic academy. He had studied 17 alien languages, but had never faced real danger. His hands were shaking slightly. "They are scanning us," Taiho reported. 6 warships are moving to escort positions. Their weapons are active." "Expected," Jin-woo said calmly. "They want us to feel small and afraid. Do not give them that satisfaction." Dr. Hana, the ship's medical officer, entered the bridge. She was a quiet woman who specialized in alien biology. She had read everything available about Kelthari physiology. Her job was to keep the diplomatic team alive if things went wrong. From her expression, she expected things to go very wrong. "Their welcome message is coming through," Taiho said. He listened to his earpiece and translated. They say we should kneel when we land and present ourselves to the might of the Dominion. They say any sign of disrespect will be punished." Captain Yuna gripped the arm of her chair. "Perhaps we should turn around." "No." Jin-woo straightened his diplomatic robes. "We land. We walk in with our heads held high. We bow according to their custom, but we do not kneel. Humans kneel to no one. The landing was rough. Kelthari ground control guided them to a platform surrounded by armed soldiers. When the ship's door opened, hot air rushed in, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. The sky was the color of blood. Commander Raxus waited for them at the bottom of the ramp. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with gray skin like stone and 4 arms ending in clawed hands. His armor was decorated with the bones of enemies he had killed. Behind him stood 50 warriors, each one bred for war. Raxus looked at the small group of humans and laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. "These are the humans?" He spoke through a translator device on his chest. "The great new species that the galaxy whispers about? You are tiny. You look like you would break if I breathed too hard." Jinwoo walked down the ramp slowly. His steps were measured and calm. When he reached the bottom, he bowed in the traditional Kelthari way, one fist pressed to his chest, head lowered for exactly 3 seconds. It was a bow of respect between equals. This made Raxus angry. Equals did not come to the Dominion. Only servants and victims came here. You dare bow as an equal? Raxus stepped closer, towering over the human. You should crawl. Your kind has conquered nothing. You have proven nothing. We have come to offer peace, Jinwoo replied. His voice was quiet but clear. The Human Council wishes friendship with the Kelthari Dominion. Friendship. Raxus spat the word like poison. The weak always want friendship. The strong take what they want. He leaned down until his face was inches from Jinwoo's. I think I will take your ship. And your crew. And you will watch while I break them, one by one. Jinwoo did not step back. He did not blink. He simply looked into the alien commander's eyes and said nothing. The silence stretched between them, like a wire about to snap. Somewhere high above, in the tallest tower of the Grand Citadel, High Lord Voreth watched through a viewing screen. He sat on a throne made from the weapons of fallen enemies, his ancient body wrapped in ceremonial armor. He had ruled the Dominion for 200 years. He had seen countless species come before him, begging and trembling. But this human did not tremble. Interesting, Voreth murmured to himself. Bring him to me. Let us see what this creature is made of. And in the shadow of the Black Towers, under a burning sky, the first meeting between humanity and the Kelthari had begun. Neither side knew yet how it would end. But the galaxy was about to learn something important about the quiet species from the small blue world. Some lessons are taught with words. Some are written in blood. And some truths are so heavy that they change everything they touch. The truth about humanity was all three. The Grand Hall of Dominion was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed inside. Pillars of black stone stood like giants frozen in time. On the walls hung the flags of conquered species, torn and stained, displayed as warnings to anyone who might resist Kelthari rule. Park Jinwoo walked through this hall with his head held straight. Lieutenant Taiho walked beside him, carrying the treaty documents. Behind them came Captain Yuna and Dr. Hana, their faces carefully blank. Around them, hundreds of Kelthari warriors stood in perfect rows, watching the small group of humans with hungry eyes dot at the far end of the hall. On a platform raised 20 steps above the floor, sat High Lord Voreth. He was old, older than any other Kelthari alive, but his eyes were sharp as broken glass. He wore armor that had been passed down through generations of rulers. In his hand, he held a staff made from the spine of some great beast. Commander Raxus stood at the bottom of the steps, still angry from the landing pad. He had wanted to hurt the humans then, but Voreth's orders had stopped him. Now he waited like a dog, hoping for permission to bite. Approach, Voreth commanded. His voice filled the hall without effort. Jinwoo climbed the steps alone, as tradition required. When he reached the proper distance from the throne, he bowed again, the same bow of equals he had shown before. A murmur ran through the watching crowd. Some of the warriors gripped their weapons tighter. "You bow as an equal," Voreth observed. "Do you not know what we are? Do you not know how many species have kneeled on these same stones and begged for mercy? I know your history well, High Lord." Jinwoo's voice was respectful, but not afraid. "I also know that humanity has never kneeled to anyone. I will not start today." Voreth leaned forward slightly. "And what does humanity offer, that you speak with such confidence? What have your people conquered? What blood have you spilled to earn your place among the stars?" Jinwoo gestured for Tayo to bring the documents. The young lieutenant climbed the steps with shaking hands and presented the treaty case to his superior. "We offer peace," Jinwoo said, opening the case. "A mutual agreement of non-aggression. Fair trade between our peoples. The sharing of knowledge and technology. These terms ask nothing that either side cannot give freely." He held out the treaty for Voreth to examine. For a long moment, the High Lord simply stared at the documents. Then he began to laugh. It started as a low rumble and grew into a sound that shook the very air. Around the hall, other Kelthari joined in, hundreds of voices laughing at the foolish humans who came offering paper promises instead of proof of strength. "Peace," Voreth repeated, still laughing. "Trade, sharing, these are words for the weak. These are the things that species offer when they have nothing else." He waved a dismissive hand. "Tell me, little human, what exactly could your people offer to warriors? What do you have that we cannot simply take? Friendship freely given is worth more than anything taken by force." Jinwoo replied calmly. This only made the laughter louder. From the observation gallery above, Dr. Hana watched with growing fear. But she noticed something strange. In the corner of the gallery, an old Kelthari sat apart from the others. He was not laughing. His name was Elder Malith, and he was studying Jinwoo with an expression that looked almost like recognition. Or was it fear? Below, Commander Raxes had heard enough. He saw a chance to please his master and hurt the humans at the same time. He strode up the steps, pushing past the guards, and stopped directly in front of Jinwoo. "You waste the High Lord's time with these games," Raxes growled. "You come here with your papers and your soft words, thinking you can trick us. But I see what you really are." He reached out and slapped the treaty documents from Jinwoo's hands. The papers scattered across the steps like fallen leaves. Jinwoo said nothing. He bent down slowly and began to gather the documents. Raxes watched with growing anger. The human was not fighting back. He was not even protesting. He was just quietly picking up papers like a servant. This was an insult to everything the Kelthari believed. "You will not even defend yourself?" Raxes demanded. "You will not show any spirit at all?" Jinwoo stood, the documents gathered neatly in his hands. "I came here to talk, not to fight." Something inside Raxes snapped. With one swift motion, he drew back his armored fist and struck the human across the face. The blow was meant to kill, or at least to shatter bones. Raxes had killed many beings with that same strike. His armored gauntlet was designed to crack stone. Jinwoo's head snapped to the side. Blood flew from his split lip and splattered on the sacred steps. The sound of the impact echoed through the suddenly silent hall. No one moved. No one breathed. Lieutenant Tayo's hand went to his sidearm. Captain Yuna started forward, her own hand reaching for her weapon. But Jinwoo raised one palm slightly, a subtle gesture that stopped them both in their tracks. Slowly, very slowly, the human diplomat straightened. He wiped the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. His expression had not changed. His eyes had not wavered. Is that how the Kelthari greet those who come in peace? He asked quietly. His voice was exactly the same as before, calm, measured, but something in the room had shifted. The air felt heavier. The shadows seemed darker. Some of the warriors near the front stepped back without knowing why. Raxes laughed, but it sounded forced now. You see? You cannot even respond. You stand there bleeding like prey. This is what humans are, just soft little creatures pretending to matter. He turned to the crowd, spreading his forearms wide. Let this be a lesson. Let all species see how the Kelthari treat those too weak to fight. The crowd cheered, but not as loudly as before. Something was wrong. They could all feel it, like a storm coming that could not be seen yet. High Lord Vorath had stopped laughing. He was watching Jinwu with new interest. In 200 years of rule, he had never seen any creature take such a blow and remain standing. He had never seen anyone look at Raxus with such complete lack of fear. Wait, Vorath commanded, raising one hand. The hall fell silent again. Human, the High Lord said slowly, you are still standing. My commander's strike has broken warriors twice your size. Yet you bleed only a little, and your eyes show no pain, no fear. He leaned forward on his throne. What are you? Jinwu finished straightening his robes. The blood on his lip was already beginning to dry. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the great hall. I am exactly what I said I am, High Lord, a diplomat, a messenger of peace. He paused, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. But since your commander seems curious about what humans are capable of, perhaps it is time I explained. Perhaps it is time the Kelthari learned why the galaxy has started whispering our name. In the gallery above, Elder Malith's hands began to shake. He remembered now. He remembered the old records, the classified files, the warnings that had been buried for decades. He remembered what humans really were, and he was afraid. The silence in the grand hall was complete. Every eye was fixed on the small human who stood bleeding on the sacred steps, yet showed no pain and no fear. High Lord Vorath leaned forward on his throne, waiting. Commander Raxes stood frozen, unsure for the first time in his life what to do next. Park Jinwu reached into his diplomatic robes and pulled out a small device. It looked harmless, just a thin circle of metal that fit in his palm. But when he pressed its center, light exploded upward and filled the space above their heads. The Kelthari warriors grabbed their weapons, thinking it was an attack. But no attack came. Instead, images began to form in the light, moving pictures floating in the air like ghosts. You asked what humans are, Jinwu said, his voice carrying through the hall. You think we are weak because we come offering peace. You believe that strength only shows itself through violence. So let me tell you what peace costs us. Let me show you why we choose words before weapons. The images showed a blue and green world, beautiful, alive, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. This is Earth, Jinwu said. Our home. The place where humanity was born. The image changed. Now it showed cities rising from the ground. Technology growing. Ships learning to fly. But then darker things appeared. Soldiers marching. Fires burning. Explosions that lit up the night. For thousands of years we fought each other, Jinwu continued. Tribe against tribe. Nation against nation. We invented new ways to kill faster than we invented ways to heal. We created weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. A terrible image filled the hall. A mushroom cloud rising over a burning landscape. The Kelthari watched in confusion. They did not understand what they were seeing. This is what we call a nuclear weapon, Jinwu explained. One bomb. One single bomb. It killed 200,000 people in an instant. and we built thousands of them. We pointed them at each other and waited to see who would fire first. Voreth's eyes narrowed. 200,000 from one weapon? Even the Kelthari, masters of war, had never created anything so efficient. We did not stop there. Jinwu's voice grew harder. We made weapons that could poison the air for centuries. We made diseases that could wipe out entire populations. We made machines that could think and fight without rest, without mercy, without end. The images showed horrors that even the Kelthari had never imagined. Weapons that made planets unlivable. Ships that could break moons. Soldiers who had replaced their own flesh with metal and wire. We became so good at destruction, Jinwu said, that we almost destroyed ourselves. Not once, not twice. Many times, humanity stood on the edge of extinction because of our own weapons. The hall was completely silent now. No one was laughing anymore. And then we went to the stars. We found other species. Some were peaceful. Some were not. The images changed to show alien creatures of different shapes and sizes. We tried to make friends when we could. But some species only understood one language. The image shifted to show something massive and terrifying. A hive of creatures that stretched across star systems. Billions of connected minds, all hungry, all spreading. The collective, Jinwu said. A species that consumed everything in its path. They had destroyed hundreds of worlds before they reached human space. The galaxy believed we would fall like all the others. In the gallery, Elder Maleth was shaking visibly now. He remembered the reports. He remembered the fear that had spread through every corner of known space when the collective began its advance. The collective was endless, Jinwu said. For everyone you killed, 10 more came. They could not be scared. They could not be reasoned with. They only consumed and grew. The images showed human ships engaging the collective. Battles that stretched across entire solar systems. Flames in the void of space. So humanity did something that no other species had ever done. We stopped holding back. The images became darker. Human soldiers with glowing eyes and metal limbs. Weapons that tore holes in the fabric of space itself. Ships that moved faster than thought. We unlocked everything we had buried. Every terrible weapon. Every forbidden technology. We became the monsters that we had always feared we could be. Commander Raxus finally found his voice. You are lying. No species could fight the collective. They were unstoppable. Jinwu turned to look at him directly. Were? Past tense, Commander. The collective no longer exists. A gasp ran through the crowd. We did not just defeat them. We erased them. Every hive. Every world they had touched. Every trace of their existence. It took us 7 years. We lost billions of our own people. But when it was over, the collective was gone from the universe forever. High Lord Voreth rose slowly from his throne. In 200 years, no one had ever seen him stand for anyone. You expect us to believe that your small species destroyed the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known? Jinwu met his gaze without flinching. Check your own historical records, High Lord. The collective was advancing toward Kelthari space when they suddenly stopped. When they began to retreat. When they began to scream across every communication channel, warning each other about a new enemy. About creatures that could not be killed. About a species that burned their worlds and hunted their queens and showed no mercy at all. He paused. They were warning each other about us. Elder Maleth stood up in the gallery, his old voice carrying despite its trembling. He speaks the truth. I have seen the records. The silence makers. The burners of Axis Prime. The species that turned the collective's own weapons against them, and then turned weapons on their own soldiers to keep them from becoming infected. These are humans. Every head turned to look at the Elder. I was young when the reports came, Maleth continued. The Galactic Council sealed them because they were too frightening. Humans did not just win the war. They won it so completely, so brutally, that the Council worried what would happen if humanity decided to keep fighting. What would happen if they turned those weapons on everyone else? Jinwoo nodded slowly. The Council was wise to worry. After the war ended, we looked at what we had become. We saw the graves of our own people, sacrificed for victory. We saw the ruins of worlds we had burned to stop the spread. We saw ourselves, and we were horrified. The images above changed one final time. They showed humans not fighting, but building, healing, planting gardens on burned soil, teaching children in schools made from the wreckage of war. So we made a choice, Jinwoo said. We buried our weapons. We locked away our war machines. We swore that we would never again become what we had been, unless there was no other option. We chose to be builders instead of destroyers. We chose peace. He looked around the hall at the thousands of Kelthari warriors watching him. I was a soldier before I was a diplomat, he said quietly. I commanded fleets. I gave orders that killed millions. I burned worlds with my own hands. I know exactly what humanity can do when we stop choosing to be gentle. He touched the blood still drying on his lip. Your commander struck me. In the old days, I would have killed everyone in this room before his hand finished moving. I would have turned this planet into ash and moved on to the next. That is what I was trained to do. That is what I am capable of doing. He turned back to face High Lord Voreth. But I am not here to destroy. I am here to offer friendship. I am here because humanity learned something that you have not learned yet. I am here because true strength is not the ability to kill. True strength is having all the power in the universe and choosing not to use it. The hall was completely silent. So I ask you again, High Lord, Jinwoo said softly. Will you accept our offer of peace? Or do we need to have a different kind of conversation? The question hung in the air like smoke after a fire. And for the first time in his long reign, High Lord Voreth did not know what to say to the silence after Jinwoo's words stretched like a wire about to snap. The holographic images faded, leaving only the reality of the grand hall, the watching warriors, and the small human standing before the most powerful being in the Dominion. That High Lord Voreth slowly sat back on his throne. His ancient face was unreadable, but his eyes burned with something new. Calculation, perhaps, or the first seeds of respect. Commander Raxus could not accept what he had heard. His whole life had been built on the belief that the Kelthari were the strongest species in the galaxy. That strength was proven through combat, through conquest, through blood. Now this small creature was claiming that humans had fought a war beyond anything the Dominion had ever faced, and won. Lies, Raxus growled, stepping forward. Pretty stories and light tricks. You show us pictures in the air and expect us to tremble? Any species can claim great deeds from the past. Only the present matters. Only what can be proven here and now. Jinwoo turned to face him. What would you consider proof, Commander? Combat. Raxus drew himself to his full height, nearly 8 feet of muscle and armor and rage. Ritual challenge. You against me, in the arena, following the old laws. If your species is truly as dangerous as you claim, then show us. Fight me. A murmur ran through the crowd. Ritual challenge was sacred among the Kelthari. It could not be refused without permanent shame. But it was also meant for warriors of equal standing, not diplomats facing commanders. Raxus, Voreth spoke from his throne. This human is an envoy. Killing him would violate. Not to the death, Raxus interrupted, which was bold enough to draw gasps from the crowd. First blood has already been drawn. He pointed to Jinwoo's split lip. Let us see if he can draw mine. If he cannot even scratch me, then we will know his stories are nothing but wind. Lieutenant Taiho stepped forward urgently. Ambassador, you cannot. This is exactly what. A chance to humiliate us publicly. Jinwu looked at his young aide with something almost like fondness. Perhaps, he said quietly. Or perhaps it is what we need. He turned back to Raxes. I accept your challenge, Commander. The arena was beneath the citadel, carved from the living rock of the planet. Thousands of Kelthari filled the viewing platforms, summoned by word of the unexpected challenge. At the center of the sand-covered floor, weapons of various types hung on racks. The rules were simple. Fight until one opponent yielded or could no longer continue. Jinwu stood at one end of the arena, still wearing his diplomatic robes. He had removed nothing. He had chosen no weapon. Commander Raxes stood at the other end, wearing full combat armor and carrying a blade that crackled with energy. He was laughing again, confidence restored. Look at him, Raxes called to the crowd. No armor, no weapon. Either he is the greatest warrior who ever lived, or the greatest fool. Either way, this will be entertaining. In the viewing box reserved for honored guests, Captain Yuna leaned close to Dr. Hana. Tell me he knows what he is doing. Hana was studying a small medical scanner hidden in her palm. Her face had gone pale. I accessed his classified files before we left the ship. His baseline readings are: Captain, his bone density is 3 times normal. His muscle fiber structure is not entirely organic. His pain receptors had been surgically modified. She swallowed. The blow that Raxes landed earlier should have killed any normal human. It probably should have killed any normal Kelthari too. Below, a great horn sounded. The challenge had begun. Raxes charged immediately. He was fast for his size, his forearms moving in patterns designed to overwhelm any opponent. His blade sang through the air, cutting paths that nothing could survive. Jinwu did not move. The first strike came down with enough force to split stone. It stopped inches from Jinwu's face, blocked by his bare hand wrapped around the blade. Blood trickled between his fingers, but the blade did not move forward. Could not move forward. Raxes stared in disbelief. He pushed harder. His muscles strained. His boots dug into the sand. The blade did not budge. You are strong, Jinwu admitted quietly. But you have never faced something like me. He twisted his hand. The blade shattered like glass dot. The crowd fell absolutely silent. Raxes stumbled backward, staring at the broken weapon in his hand. Then rage took over, and he threw himself at the human, with all 4 arms swinging. What happened next would be talked about for generations. Jinwu moved. Not like a normal creature moved. He flowed like water, like shadow, like something that existed between moments rather than within them. Every strike Raxes threw hit only air. Every grab found nothing to hold. The human was everywhere and nowhere, always exactly where the commander was not. The crowd watched in growing awe as their greatest warrior spun and struck and raged, and touched nothing at all. Then Jinwu stopped dodging. Raxes's fist connected with the human's chest. Then another blow. Then another. Jinwu stood still, absorbing impacts that would have killed most beings, showing no reaction at all. He was letting the commander hit him. He was proving a point. Do you understand now? Jinwu asked, his voice unchanged despite the assault. I let you strike me in the Grand Hall. I am letting you strike me now. Not because I cannot stop you, but because I am choosing not to hurt you. Raxes screamed in frustration and brought both of his right arms down in a crushing blow aimed at Jinwu's skull. Jinwu caught both wrists. He held them like they were nothing. And then he moved for real. The fight ended in 3 seconds. Raxes found himself on his back in the sand, all 4 arms pinned, the human's hand pressed against his throat. He could not move. He could not breathe. He could only look up into those quiet, tired eyes and understand for the first time what true helplessness felt like. I could have killed you before you finished your first swing, Jinwoo said softly, only loud enough for Raxus to hear. I could have killed everyone in this arena before anyone knew what was happening. That is what I was made to do. That is the truth of what humanity became. He released the pressure slightly, allowing Raxus to gasp for air. But I chose not to. I choose peace not because I am weak, but because I have seen what happens when I do not choose peace. I have seen the graves. I have walked through the ashes. I will not add more names to that list unless there is no other way. He stood and stepped back, offering his hand to the fallen commander. Raxus stared at the hand. In Kelthari culture, accepting help after defeat was the ultimate admission of inferiority. It meant recognizing that the victor was not just stronger but better. The commander's face twisted with conflicting emotions. Then slowly, he reached up and took the offered hand. Jinwoo pulled him to his feet. The crowd did not know how to react. Some sat in stunned silence. Others began to murmur. A few, understanding what they had witnessed, bowed their heads. Elder Malith's voice cut through the noise. He was standing at the edge of the arena, having left the viewing platform. His old eyes were filled with tears. I remember now, he said, loud enough for all to hear. The burners of Axis Prime, the Silence Makers, the species that ended the collective. They called themselves many things during the war. But there was one name that the collective gave them. One name that was screamed across their hive links as a warning to all who shared their minds. He pointed at Jinwoo with a trembling hand. They called them the peaceful ones, because the humans only fought when they had decided that peace was impossible. And when they made that decision, nothing survived. In the viewing box, Captain Yuna finally allowed herself to breathe. Beside her, Dr. Hana was crying without knowing why. Down in the arena, Park Jin-woo walked slowly toward the exit. His diplomatic robes were dusty and blood-stained. His face showed nothing but calm. But those who looked closely could see something else in his eyes. Relief. Because today, once again, he had not had to become what he used to be. Today, peace had been enough. The throne chamber of High Lord Vorath was different from the Grand Hall. It was smaller, more private, built for conversation rather than display. The walls showed no conquered flags, only maps of stars and records of history. This was where real decisions were made, away from the eyes of warriors and crowds. Park Jin-woo stood before the throne, alone this time. No guards watched them. No witnesses recorded their words. Vorath had requested a private audience, and Jin-woo had agreed. For a long moment, neither spoke. The old Kelthari lord studied the human diplomat with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. I am 247 years old, Vorath finally said. I have fought in 32 wars. I have killed with my own hands more times than I can count. I have built this dominion from scattered tribes into a power that controls 100 worlds. He leaned forward on his throne. In all that time, I have never been afraid. Not once. Fear is weakness, and I burned that weakness out of myself before I was old enough to remember having it. He paused. Today, watching you stand in my arena, I felt something I did not recognize at first. It has been so long that I had forgotten what it was. Fear? Jin-woo asked quietly. No. Vorath shook his head slowly. Awe. I was in awe of you. Not because you defeated Raxus. That was simple enough to predict once the fighting started. But because you did not kill him. You had every right. By our laws, by any laws, you could have torn him apart for striking a diplomatic envoy. Instead, you offered your hand. He stood from his throne and walked down the steps, something no Kelthari ruler had done for any visitor in centuries. He stopped in front of Jinwoo, standing close enough to kill or be killed. "I have one question," Vorath said. "One question that will determine everything that comes next. Ask, you have this power. Your species ended the collective, a force that we believed unstoppable. You could conquer the galaxy with the weapons you describe. Why do you not? Why choose peace when you could rule everything?" Jinwoo was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. "Because I remember their faces." "Whose faces?" "Everyone I killed. Every order I gave that ended lives. Every world I burned to stop the spread of the collective." Jinwoo's eyes grew distant. "In the war, I became something terrible. We all did. We had to, or everything would have been lost. But when it was over, I could not forget what I had done." He looked directly at Vorath. "I commanded the Third Fleet at the Battle of Axis Prime. We burned a world with 60 million people on it because the collective had infected the population. There was no other way. They were already lost, and if we did not destroy them, the infection would spread. So I gave the order, and then I watched through my ship's windows as 60 million lights went dark." Vorath said nothing. He simply listened. "That was when I understood," Jinwoo continued. "Power without wisdom is just destruction waiting to happen. The ability to kill means nothing if you cannot choose when to stop. We won the war, but we lost something inside ourselves. Something we are still trying to rebuild." He stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "That is why we choose peace. Not because we are weak. Because we have learned what happens when we choose war. We have paid that price. We carry that weight. Every weapon we buried represents names on a list that we swore would not grow any longer." He reached out and placed his hand on Vorath's shoulder, a gesture that in Kelthari culture was reserved only for family or the closest of allies. "You asked why we do not rule the galaxy. The answer is simple. We do not want to become what we were. We do not want to carry any more names. Every day we choose peace. We choose to believe that there is a better way. That strength can be used to build instead of destroy." Vorath looked at the hand on his shoulder. In 2 centuries of rule, no one had touched him without permission. No one would have dared. But he did not pull away. "And if peace fails?" he asked. "If some enemy rises that cannot be reasoned with?" Jinwoo's expression shifted. For just a moment, something cold and ancient looked out through his eyes. "Then we will do what we have to do. We will become the monsters again. We will burn what needs to burn and save what can be saved. And when it is over, we will bury the weapons again, and add more names to the list and try once more to be better than we were." He stepped back, and the coldness faded, replaced by the tired, gentle Diplomat once more. "That is humanity's burden, High Lord. We know what we are capable of. We cannot forget. So we must keep choosing, every day, to be something else." For a long moment, Vorath simply stood there, thinking. Then, slowly, he did something that had not been done by a High Lord of the Kelthari Dominion in living memory. He bowed, not a bow of equals. A bow of recognition. A bow that said, "You are something greater than what I knew existed." "The treaty will be signed," Vorath said, straightening. "But I want something more than words on paper. Name it. I want you to teach us." The old warrior's voice was quieter now, almost vulnerable. "The Kelthari have known only conquest. We have built our empire on the bones of others, because we believed it was the only way to survive. But if there is another path, if there is a way to be strong without being destroyers, I want to learn it." He looked at Jinwoo with something like hope. "Will humanity teach us how to build instead of conquer?" Jinwoo smiled. It was the first real smile he had shown since arriving on the throne of ash. "That," he said, "is exactly why we came." 3 days later, the Horizon's Edge prepared to depart from Kelthari space. The treaty had been signed in a ceremony that the entire Dominion witnessed. But more importantly, a new agreement had been reached, a cultural exchange, an educational partnership, the first steps toward a friendship that no one had believed possible. On the bridge of his ship, Lieutenant Taiyo stood beside Ambassador Jingwu as they watched the planet grow smaller in the viewscreen. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" "Always, Taiyo. Were you ever worried? During the challenge, during the whole mission, was there ever a moment when you thought we might not succeed?" Jingwu considered the question. "I was worried," he admitted. "Not about the fighting. I know what I am capable of. I was worried that I would have to use it. Every time I enter a situation that might require violence, I worry that this will be the time I cannot stop myself, that this will be the time the old monster takes over completely." He turned from the window. "That is what they do not understand. All these species who think we are weak because we are peaceful. Every moment of peace is a victory for us. Every day we do not have to fight is a day we win against ourselves. The real battle is not out there. It is inside every human who remembers what we used to be." Taiho thought about this. "What you said to the High Lord about carrying the names of everyone you killed. How many names are there?" Jingwu was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Too many." He walked toward his quarters, then stopped at the door. "But today, Taiyao, there are no new names. Today we made friends instead of enemies. Today the list did not get longer." He smiled faintly. "That is enough. That is always enough." Far away, on a station floating between the stars, Ambassador, Neth of the Galactic Council finished composing his report. He had observed the entire Kelthari mission through hidden sensors and encrypted channels, as was his duty as a neutral observer. His message was brief but important. Human diplomatic mission successful. Kelthari Dominion has agreed to unprecedented peace treaty and cultural exchange. Recommend upgrading humanity's threat assessment from minimal to apex contained. Additional note: under no circumstances should any member species provoke human diplomatic missions. They will attempt peace first. They will offer friendship and trade and cooperation. But if pushed, if threatened, if given no other choice, they will respond with force that exceeds all known projections. He paused, then added one final line. The humans are not peaceful because they are weak. They are peaceful because they choose to be. Pray that they keep choosing. He sent the message and sat back in his chair, thinking about what he had witnessed, thinking about a species that had burned worlds to save a galaxy, then put down their weapons and learned to grow gardens instead, thinking about the most dangerous question of all. What happens when the gentle ones stop being gentle? He hoped the galaxy would never find out. On a quiet human colony world, far from the throne of ash, far from the secrets and the history and the buried weapons, children played in fields of golden wheat. They did not know about the war their grandparents had fought. They did not know about the terrible power sleeping in the ships that orbited above them. They knew only that the sky was blue and the sun was warm, and their parents would be home for dinner. This was what Park Jingwoo fought for. Not glory, not conquest, not the expansion of human power. Just this. Children playing in the sun. Families coming home for dinner. A galaxy where the terrible question never needed to be answered. He looked out the window of his quarters as the ship jumped faster than light travel, and he allowed himself a moment of peace. Tomorrow there would be another mission, another species to meet, another conflict to resolve, another test of humanity's commitment to the path they had chosen. But today, they had made friends out of enemies. Today, the list had not grown. Today was enough.